you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Welcome back. This is the West Box Scores Lucha Royale series. Today's show is probably the most jam-packed from this four-parter. We tackle 3 topics and 1 crazy off-script discussion you won't want to miss. We'll go over our favorite matches, our favorite factions, and touch on experiences as fans of a sport that usually gets ridiculed by those who don't understand its greatness. So without further ado, here's episode 3. Let's get into it.
All right, so I got to ask you, Rick, what would be one of your favorite matches of all time?
That is such a hard question to answer, you bastard. There's so many wrestling
This is
matches
where
I
we
love.
hit the hard-hitting questions here.
Oh, the hard-hitting questions.
No rant, no slant.
No.
Wrestle talk with IQ.
I think one of the most exciting matches that I remember watching, and I was just like, oh my God, what are they going to do next, was the first TLC match.
Oh.
Was the first tables and ladders chair match, was the first match where I was just like, I guess before that I was already kind of watching wrestling, and if you watch wrestling enough, you can kind of read what's going to happen next and stuff like that. But with that TLC match, I had no idea what the hell they were going to do. The Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, and freaking Edge and Christian was just. It was insane. I never thought of anything, that you were going to jump off a freaking 12-foot ladder, do a swanton bomb into a guy into a table, and I was just like, what the hell is going on? That was the first match where I was just like, this is awesome. Before the chant of the "This is awesome" chant was even thought, I was like, dude, this is awesome. And to this day, it's still one of my most favorite matches to watch of all time.
Such an iconic match. You're right. Donald, what would you say one of your favorite matches that you've ever seen ranks up there as your favorite?
I think definitely the Hell in the Cell between Taker and Mankind.
Nice.
Obviously it has that iconic throw over the top, but it was crazy because like I remember watching that and being like, wow, this is really intense, especially because the way they built that story up line between Mankind and Undertaker. It's like, as a kid watching it, you didn't know who was the scarier one, Mankind was in the boiler room. It was just like, what the heck is this? Like, he's like living in this like, really dark place that looks like you get thrown there for being a reject in life or whatever. And then Undertaker was just Undertaker, you know what I mean? He was like the dead man, he's just very untouchable. And then here comes, Mankind with this whole like reject look and persona, taking him on and kind of like, building it up. And so I was obviously when the match happened, I thought it was really cool how it all played out. And it was funny because I did listen to that Undertaker interview now that he did the documentary, that apparently, and it was interesting seeing information about how, because that was the first one, they didn't really set up the cage to be as strong to handle their weight. So I didn't notice it while the match was happening. But now when you look back at the clips, you see how they're actually always on where the pipes are at. And they're always trying to figure out how to like walk on top of the cage without being in the middle of it, because it would break. And obviously you see when it breaks through and how much in that's all because like there was too much weight, and I guess they were the test dummies for the Hell in the Cell whole thing. Yeah. So it was just kind of crazy. But yeah, that match that I always remembered how it went down, everything that happened, and then the hardcore stuff that Mankind would bring and everything. It was just like, what the heck is like, what's this guy doing? He's taking it to a different level, so especially for WWE at that time. I think that Mick Foley was that guy that really helped them elevate like the more extreme stuff, but obviously doing it with character, because he had great characters. I always thought he was really cool with all the characters he had. But yeah, Hell in a Cell for sure. I think like second place that I would think that I think
wait, don't let us all get through before you bury it.
All right. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
All right. Sonny, who would you say, or what match would you say is fresh in your memory as one of your favorites? belts.
I mean, it's always so far the two that Rick, and this is why I had to stop Donald
Because you're going to take it, right?
take all the good ones.
The two that they already listed were two of the ones that are.
If you take mine, I'm going to be mad about going last.
Instantly come to my mind, so that's why I had to stop Donald. I was like, whoa. But one of the ones that I remember vividly is the ladder match, Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels.
Ooh, that was my backup one.
Yeah, that I think it was WrestleMania 10 or
Yes,
11.
It was WrestleMania. Yeah, it was 10.
Yeah, it was an Intercontinental title match. I remember it wasn't the main card,
Right.
Or the So
It
that
stole
that
the
match,
show, though.
dude.
It stole
That
the
exactly. That match is the one I remember the most from that WrestleMania, and again, that was what entrenched my fandom for Shawn Michaels, because up to that point in the WWF, you had not seen anything like that. Like, this dude was, again, the first to fly off the ladders like that and use the ladder in such an athletic way. And then Razor Ramon, to his part, I feel like he's probably one of the most underrated partners. And like, that dude sells most of the matches, when he's
Absolutely.
he's
He's a great worker.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like, that guy, and in that match, that was just another example of it. Like, man, they went back and forth, and the storyline it had everything, dude. So that's one of the ones that I vividly remember.
I believe the storyline was that Razor Ramon had the other belt. That's why they had both belts
Exactly.
up there, right?
Yeah, because Shawn Michaels came back, basically. But he never technically lost his title before he left.
That's so great.
So there were two intercontinental titles, and so they were just going to settle the debate once and for all. So yeah, it was that was a great match. That's what I remember as a kid.
Nice. I remember, for me as a kid, being my favorite match, because it had the storyline and build and being so great, was WrestleMania 12 60-minute Iron Man match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And just watching that and being like, this match is going back and forth. Who's gonna get a pinfall?
That was on my birthday.
Oh wow, was
That
it?
was on my November 9th. Yeah, dude. No, the screw job was on my birthday.
I'm about to say, wait a minute.
November
like-
9th, the screw job was on my birthday. Yeah, WrestleMania was
In April.
April.
That's usually WrestleMania sometimes fall on my birthday.
Yeah.
So in April. So that's why I'm like,
I just remembered one of their two matches being on my birthday, but now that I thought about it, I was like, oh no, it was the screw job that happened on my birthday.
oh my God, the screw job's a whole nother podcast, dude. We're going to go down that rabbit hole.
But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, for sure. So that WrestleMania was just awesome. 60 minutes going back and forth. And then like around 10 minutes till, you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? There still hasn't been a pinfall yet. And then Bret Hart getting Shawn Michaels in the sharpshooter with like 30 seconds to go. Like, it's going to end at the last minute. Of course it is. And he holds on, time expires. Like, okay, well, what happens? Of course, there's that confusion. And then you get the overtime. And it's just, and going into that match being Shawn Michaels, I was more into Shawn Michaels obviously at that time because the flair that he has, as a kid you go for that more so, and it's just like that storyline they had. What Jose Lothario come back to train him, you're like that boyhood dream. He wants to be champion. Like, of course he's gonna win it. He has to beat Bret Hart. But at the time they built Bret Hart to be like this excellence of execution wrestler. Like, there's no way he's gonna be able to beat Shawn Michaels is going to be able to beat Bret Hart because he's just such this great technician. And as a kid, you're not into that. You're into the whole flair still. So that's why I'm rooting for Shawn Michaels, and he holds on to like not tap out. Like, oh, well, he didn't really lose, but I guess it's going to end in a draw. But then they make him restart the match, and he comes back and hits the sweet chin music and wins it. And it was just so great. And even in the entrance to that match, he comes down from the top of the Arrowhead Pond.
Yeah. That's
right.
right.
He comes
right.
down from the rafters there next to that ugly Anaheim Mighty Ducks logo, but he comes all the way down, and it's just so cool. And that right there is one of my favorite matches as a kid. And obviously that's when you start paying attention to like how matches are formed and the storytelling within the match, because I believe he can switch in music to a cameraman at one point. Like, it's just so nuts, all the stuff that happens in that match.
I remember about that match Howard Finkel's call when it was a draw, and it was like the booze. Like that's something that I distinctly remember. That dude's voice, rest in peace, Finkel. but that dude could sell you on like a match result or intro.
Oh yeah.
The greatest voice of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, Doc Gallows, by the way, shout out to Doc Gallows. He does a great Howard Finkel
Oh, yeah.
impersonation,
Nice.
which is like, it makes you think you're listening to the real guy.
Nice.
But so those are some great matches. We just spouted off there, guys. So what would you say, though, your favorite faction of all time is? Storyline, faction. I would say faction first. Rick, go ahead. Who's your favorite faction of all time?
Oh, my favorite faction of all time. Man, it would have to be NWO. Honestly, it would have to be NWO. It was just one of those things that was just, it was great. It was, I mean, it imploded on itself and later on, but when it first started, it was great. It was just so many big names. It was, Scott Hall. It was Kevin Nash. It was Hogan. It was a time where it was so just Stone Cold Steve Austin-esque, which was my favorite, still my favorite wrestler right now. It's just like screw authority, forget everything. And they've literally, once you start figuring out later, they're like, oh, they literally run the show. They actually did run WCW for a while, pretty much from Bischoff. Bischoff just let them roam free and do whatever they wanted. So that's why I was like, oh, that was so awesome. They could do whatever they want. They're just doing great matches. And later on, crappy matches. I mean, they don't sold nobody. But
they didn't have to because they were NWO.
Exactly. They didn't have to. But I think it was NWO. For me,
Nice.
It's NWO.
By the way, the whole time you're just telling NWO stuff, Sonny's giving you the whole
I know,
suck
he's
it
giving
chop
me the whole
there.
suck it chop over here.
Yeah.
I'll I got 2 words for you.
Yeah.
Shut up.
For life.
So we obviously know, Sonny, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say close second is the Wolfpack within,
The
NWO.
Oh yeah.
That was to me cooler. The problem I really liked NWO at the time, but the problem was they were like a lamer version of DX. DX had the humor that NWO did not have. And that's what, to me, put DX on top. Like the gimmicks, the jokes, like just the what are they called? The
promos?
The promos.
The
The promos that DX would shoot, because Kevin Nash and like Scott Hall, if you go back and you watch, a lot of their like comebacks are this move.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like that's all. Like it's the stupidest thing ever.
But all they had to do though, they were that evil,
And it was over. That's the thing. That gimmick was over.
I guess for me, as I'd like to consider myself more of a sophisticated kid.
You are the sophisticated wrestling
it was
fan,
like,
of course.
that's kind of whack.
That's the first time I ever heard that one. The sophisticated wrestling fan. Oh yeah.
There you go. Take that one to the bank. DX at least came with that humor that it was like, oh, that was a burn. You know what I mean?
I think that's fair to say. DX was a bit more charismatic than the NWO.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's why, to me, I mean, DX, again, for reasons we mentioned in other mini episodes of this podcast,
Absolutely.
DX just took WWE. They were the response, if you will, to NWO, because right when WCW had... Here we go. Wrestled away.
Oh my God!
Wrestled away wrestled
the
away
audience.
The audience. It was like DX and the Attitude Era. With the help of Stone Cold, took it back. Even though DX kind of predated Stone Cold Steve Austin and that whole feud that happened. Right. DX had happened right before that. So But of course, even the reincarnation of DX, right? Even once they're leader, you would think if Scott Hall leaves NWO, I'm sorry, Kevin Nash. If Kevin Nash leaves NWO as he did, or as he went away, it kind of crumbled, right? And WCW never could pick up the pieces from it again. They tried to bring it back, but by that point, it was already too late.
Right, you lose steam.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas on the other hand, you have the creator, the most charismatic dude, leave due to injury. Shawn Michaels at the time was retiring, and DX still thrived. you know, with X-Pac and Billy Gunn and Road Dogg, and they
it was because Triple H carried the torch there and was very charismatic on his own. So
exactly, but that's a credit to what they were about. You know, the foundation,
that tandem, right?
Exactly. So even with China, you know, like her role in it was amazing. You know, just being the
she was a great heater.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So NWO felt like it got old after a year and a half.
Well, it got watered down. There were so many people in it. There were multiple factions.
That's
the best faction, of course.
Yeah,
Wolfpack was cool
it was
because it kind of rejuvenated it for a minute. But then, you know, DX just to me it's the greatest faction ever, dude.
Nice. That's fair. Donald, who would you say was your favorite faction?
Man, it's tough. You guys already picked out probably the top two that I could think of for sure.
Right.
NWO being the biggest, and WCW. Not sure, did it implode or did just WWE decide to do away with them, right?
Well, it pretty much imploded before WWE bought it. It was kind of a done deal.
Yeah.
It almost comes off like they, unlike DX, it came off like they didn't know where they were going to end it and just kind of let it run through more, and then it just burned out. And it was like, at least DX was smart enough to know, like, hey, this is the end of right here. You know, they weren't going to add any more people outside of the, you know, Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. And then if they weren't going to be in it, then they weren't just going to continue it. And even then, I think, right, it came back just as the original Shawn Michaels and Triple H, but it was more like they're just coming back to do cameos at this point. They're no longer, you know, doing it. But man, it's tough to say for me. I mean, obviously, I always remember DX being the one that, alongside Stone Cold, was the biggest one for me. But I can't. I would say DX would be my favorite, but because it's already been mentioned, I definitely the other that I thought was really cool to see was a Nation of Domination.
Yes, I was about to say that. Nice.
Was what? Say that again.
The Nation of Domination.
Oh yeah.
You know, Farouk, The Rock, early Rock, like. But
D'Lo Brown.
D'Lo Brown.
D'Lo
So he's
Brown,
doing
man.
the D'Lo Brown there.
Mark Henry, you know, Mark Henry was dude. Like, it was cool.
my-
I mean, I thought that was
my
really
favorite
early.
wrestler.
And Owen Hart.
Oh, and Owen Hart was part of it too, huh? Yeah.
That's right.
Because I know when it first came out, it felt like very like, oh, this is like a Black Power type of thing, you know. And I thought it was cool. But I remember Nation of Domination for sure was really cool to watch, and how strong they were. And unlike DX, they had no comedy as well, but you know, they were really powerful guys, you know. So it was really cool seeing them. Their song was really cool. It's crazy to think that their song is what evolved into becoming The Rock's theme eventually. So just because I think they took the same like melody or something like that. So yeah.
So one of my favorite factions growing up was also from the Attitude Era, and that was, dude, I loved heels. I still love heel wrestlers to this day, and it's the Corporation. It's got to be Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, and then eventually the corporate champ himself, The Rock.
The Rock.
He didn't sell out. He bought in. Oh, that was just so awesome to see, man.
What was the name of Shane's group with his homies from
The
Connecticut?
Mean Street Posse.
The Mean Street Posse, right?
Yeah. From Connecticut.
I remember that.
Fucking
They're all
frat
preppy
boys.
kids coming out.
Yeah.
with the sweater vest and yeah, I remember that.
Oh man, that Attitude Era obviously is so iconic because it had so many factions. You know, you could run down that list. You had, you know, DX, the Nation of Domination, the Corporation, then the Ministry of Darkness.
Boo.
Which, but you love the Undertaker.
I do love the Undertaker, but that faction was the wackest one of that whole era, dude. The Ministry of Darkness where they would sacrifice everybody on the. It's like, come on, man! Like, give me more The Rock, give me more DX, give me anything but this. Like, I'll take Al Snow's fucking head over
The Job
this shit,
Squad. You also had Al Snow in the Job Squad back in the Attitude Era.
Oh man, I totally forgot about the Job Squad. Wow.
What about, and then you also had Mankind, the Union with who else was in that one? Do you remember that one?
Actually, I don't.
Oh, dude, the Union was awesome.
What was the Union?
See, I
remember-
remember Ken Shamrock,
Yes.
Mankind, Test.
I feel like it was Tess. Yes.
Yeah, Tess, and there was a fourth Big Boss Man. There was a fourth member. I forget.
Dude, I love the way you just named everybody. Ken Shamrock, Tess, the leader was Mankind, and you forgot the Big Show.
The Big Show.
The Big Show.
Unbelievable. And they would come out with 2x4s.
Oh, that's
Oh
right.
my
Now I remember
God,
that.
that's right.
Yeah, the 2x4. The 2x4s were very memorable.
Oh my God. This debuted in November 16th, 1998, according to Wikipedia here, man. That's
Although
so awesome.
speaking of Mankind, I do, and maybe we'll touch on this next. But I do remember him and The Rock being one of my favorite tag team
Oh, the
partners.
Rock and Sock connection. Oh, that was so
Yeah, the Rock and Sock
great.
connection.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
amazing.
man.
Yeah.
To this day, the Rock and Sock Connection segment on Raw,
This is your life.
Yeah, the highest rated segment in all of Monday Night Raw
Is
history.
it really?
Yep.
Yes.
No.
The highest rated segment of all time to this day,
Yeah.
which is
That-
unbelievable, right?
See, that- and
I
that's
think
why
that's still there.
That's why The Rock to me again was a close second to Shawn Michaels, because he brought a lot of that same entertainment and humor value
Exactly.
to anything that was just like, oh, dude, just more of The Rock.
Well, because that's why wrestling is great, because it incorporates everything, right? It's going to incorporate athleticism, obviously number one, because they do a lot of physical activity, the physical attributes of wrestling, but also the humor is the most important thing of it, and that's why we enjoy watching it. It has to have physical humor, and that's why a lot of these small independent promotions are great at that, because they incorporate it. And then the third aspect, the fan interaction, and that's it. You have your trifecta of a great wrestling product: athletics, humor, and fan interaction. Perfect winning formula for fan engagement, and that's it.
But
And
that's
it's great.
that's like a really tricky line though, because you can
Exactly.
go cheesy humor,
Mhm.
but then there's cool humor,
like the
right?
Union.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's cool humor, and that's like I said, like The Rock, Shawn Michaels, DX. Like it was where it was like, oh, it felt like a diss. It's like you're listening to a rap song, and you're like, that was a sick bar that a few bars that he just dropped there. Whereas when somebody comes back with some whack rhymes, you're like, for real, like John Cena, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like you're.
First off, respect the doctor of thugonomics.
So that's the tricky part about it in wrestling.
Do you remember when John Cena debuted he debuted as the prototype, right? But then he was the doctor of thugonomics, and he'd do those wrestling rhymes. Do you remember that?
My God.
Or were you not a wrestling fan?
No, that's
were you
right.
not like
Thankfully,
really
that's
into
right when I checked out.
it? You missed that.
So that was the Ruthless Aggression era, right? That's when
It was right
started.
after Ruthless
Yeah.
Aggression. Like he debuts as Ruthless Aggression, right? He was the catalyst for it, right? Against Kurt Angle. But then he changed his gimmick to like this rapping guy, right? Doctor of Thugonomics.
The doctor, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, that was a fun gimmick, because I was still a wrestling fan at that time. And I thought, like, this is something fresh and different as opposed to everything else that's going on. And he'd have good rhymes. They were really funny. And then he'd pander to the crowd by wearing that throwback jersey of everybody, like every event he'd go to, whatever city
hometown.
he's in, he'd wear, whatever hometown he was in, he'd wear that hometown team's throwback jersey.
It sounds like I was destined to give up on wrestling at that time then, because had I stuck around and watched this, I would have been like, fuck this, I'm out.
I want you to watch it now. I wonder if you would be into it though. Like,
I will say all this John Cena bashing, I will say there's a track that he did with Murs from Living Legend back in the day that I remember that was fire. So
okay,
I'll give him credit. Donald, have you ever seen that? Heard this track?
No, I
Ever
haven't
seen
heard
the video for it?
No,
Oh man, I'll shoot you the link. But yeah, that's the only positive thing I have to say about John Cena. There's nothing that I've seen of that guy in my years since that.
What about his performance in Trainwreck? Did you ever see that?
Trainwreck
With Amy Schumer comedy?
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I prefer the one that he did with where his daughter
Cock blockers.
cock blockers. That's a funny one. He's pretty funny in that one. So
He is a funny comedic talent.
He's
Credit to
pretty
that
good
guy.
at the acting thing if you give him the right role. It's crazy to see that like he's like an actor now, and then like you remember him pretending to be a rapper for the sake of the gimmick, and you're thinking like, dang, like this is the same dude who I'm sure like listens to rap music, or you thought he did because he was a rapper back then, and then you're seeing him be like this serious actor like in Cock Blockers where he plays a dad. and it's like he's a white suburban dad and everything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny seeing that.
It's like Ice Cube.
like seeing that that's the same dude, you know?
It's like Ice Cube. Like NWA, that dude's in like all these family films.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, in your wrestling fandom, was there ever a time you felt embarrassed to be a wrestling fan? Like, where somebody like made
Right now.
fun of? What is no, but you remember growing like when you one of the times you got out of wrestling in the sense. I'll ask you this first, Rick, because was there ever a time growing up and you saw either a storyline or maybe somebody in your personal life who told you, you know, wrestling's fake, why are you watching that crap? Was there ever a time you were just embarrassed to be a wrestling fan?
No. Honestly,
Nice.
no. Honestly,
That is
no.
the only correct
I mean,
answer.
Because you know me, I am not shy about a lot of things, honestly. So I've never been embarrassed about it at all. I mean, it was always fun. It was always great. And if you didn't like it, you didn't like it. If you liked it, we were talking about it for hours. That's how I always was with everybody. Like, oh, you like wrestling? No, it's fake. All right, cool, whatever. And then, hey, you like wrestling? Yeah. Oh, did you see this? And we would just like, a lot of my friends in the like a long time ago. That's how I that's how I got new friends. Was really, hey, do you like wrestling? No. All right, next to the next person. Hey, you like wrestling?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's go. We're gonna be pals. We're gonna be friends. I never really felt embarrassed. That I mean, I've done like the whole like, oh my god, I can't believe what storyline they're doing with this one. Where I mean, the one that always pops in my head is the sexual chocolate Mae Young. When they're together, that one I was like, "What the hell is going on with this one?" It was funny, but I was like, "What the hell is going on with this?" And then the whole birth about I don't know if you guys remember this one. I know Alex does, but I don't know if
Go ahead,
I don't
go
know
for
if
it.
Sonny or Donald remembers this one. It was the whole thing where they're like, where Mark Henry got her pregnant.
So Mae Young's what, 80 years old at the time?
I think so. I don't really
Yeah.
remember how old she was, but
Oh
she
my
was
God.
80. And they're telling the whole story and everything like that. And then out of nowhere that she's giving birth. Like I forgot where was
Dude, poor
it
Mark Henry, man. That guy has been through some crazy storylines, dude. The whole sexual chocolate.
Oh, I love
and-
the whole sexual chocolate story was great. I loved it. I actually thought it was funny. I thought it was actually great. But the
Yeah.
whole with the Mae Young, that thing, I was like, what the hell? All right, well, I mean, it's crazy, but let's see where it goes.
When
Where-
he was courting China, though, I remember that's when I was
That-
like,
that
what?
was-
Oh, that's right, dude.
Oh, that was so freaking funny though, because every single time, a lot of the times, and he was just trying to make her laugh. Because you
Yeah.
can tell he was just saying these outrageous stuff to make her laugh, and sometimes you see her break. Like it was just so funny.
Yeah.
But back to the
To
whole
that
pregnancy
storyline.
thing. She gave birth to a hand.
Oh my God.
Just this big prosthetic hand
just a
pops
prosthetic hand with like jelly all over it.
Oh
It's
my
like some
God.
pink jelly all over it, and that's all it is. And everybody's like, "Oh my god!" Oh, and then like throwing up and like, "Oh, this is so sick." And I had no idea. Why the hell did you go with that? Why would it end like that? But that's how that story ended. It was just like, what?
Yeah.
out. I
Wow.
love the Vince Russo, right? That's all you got. That's the answer to every
Pretty
time
much,
you get
yeah.
a weird answer to a story. Like, how did that storyline end that way? Vince Russo. He's gonna
Yeah.
write some weird stuff like that. What were we even talking about?
Embarrassment.
The
Embarrassment.
Mae Young embarrassment there is just
Yeah.
so gross. So I'd ask you this, Donald. Was there ever a time growing up you just felt, or somebody ever like, you know, chastise you for being a wrestling fan, or just say, you know, it's fake, or anytime you just saw something embarrassing on wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, the only person I could think of, but I don't even know if this even counts, was my older brother. Mainly because it's like, you know, he used to watch it too when he was younger, but then he grew out of it,
Right.
and then I started getting into it, and then it was kind of like he grew out of it and was like, "Oh, you do know, like that's all fake." And stuff.
So he's spoiling Santa for you?
Exactly. That's what that is.
Yeah, but then what's funny is like, he knew like the Undertaker, because the Undertaker is like the constant between like, I don't know, maybe 3 generations now of wrestling fans, where you're like, you know, that's like the one constant character. And like it's crazy because you always thought like, wow, like he's still doing it. That's so cool. But like it was just like the funniest thing. But like that's as much as I've ever gotten criticism for, which is my brother being like, oh, like that's fake, or oh, like they're not really hurt or whatever. And I was like, all right, like cool. I don't care what you think. Like, I'm still gonna watch it.
That's always the right
That's
answer.
why I always feel like I don't know if it counts, because if it's your sibling, it's like it's I don't know. It depends on how much influence they have over you or not. But it's like, all right.
Because that's always so funny. Anybody who's not a wrestling fan, when they find out that you watch wrestling, even if you're just a casual fan, they'll always tell you something like that to upset you, as if you don't know already. Wrestling is fake. It's not real. Like, I know it's not real. It's a TV show. I know The Walking Dead isn't real either, but I watch that too. I don't, like, let me enjoy what I watch. Like,
yeah.
Sonny, has there ever been a time anybody's told you that? Would you remember what your response has been?
I got it plenty of times. The thing is, I grew up playing a lot of team sports, so I was in baseball, soccer, so you interact with your teammates, and some people come from all walks of life, and they're at different points in their life. And if they would hear me and another buddy or teammate talking about what happened on Raw, this last Monday at a practice on Tuesday, you'd get like the 2 or 3 kids that would be like, wrestling's fake or it's boring, blah, blah, blah. And you just shrug your shoulders and you'd be like, whatever, man. Like it's although there must be something like psychologically speaking though about, again, the fact that I started high school and I stopped watching wrestling and collecting baseball cards. Like they're
I think it's called hormones. That's what I think.
Is it ladies?
That's what I was going to say. No,
I think it's called ladies.
Because I think, I was going to say, I think that happened more so for me in middle school, but.
Or as Jerry the King Lawler would say, puppies! Puppies!
Puppies. Well, that's why I kept watching during the Attitude Era.
Right?
That's what I kept watching in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, where I was like, this is the best show on television for a 6th grader.
Was it Sable? Let's be honest.
Sunny.
Sable.
It was Sunny first.
Yes.
And then it went so forth and so on. Marlene.
Oh yeah, Goldust's manager, Marlena. Yes, yeah. I recall.
So there was absolutely a reason why I kept watching during those middle school years.
Yeah,
but then I got to high school and I think it was just like, oh, now like these people are real, like. The women are real. So yeah, no, I don't.
These ones actually talk back to me.
Exactly.
So yeah. That other than that, I'm sure I got it. At some point, I don't remember one specific incident though where I
was there ever a storyline that you watched? It was like, what the F is going on here?
Yeah. I'm telling you, a lot of that sexual, like that when Rick brought up Mark Henry, I distinctly remembered the whole China, being a DX fan, it was like, this is not like China, to suddenly like, why are you doing this to her? Like, so that I think was a moment where the holes, like I started to see cracks in the armor, where I was like, where are these storylines going? And then again, being a fan of WCW and seeing them kind of copy what the WWF was doing at the time also, like it started to poke a lot of holes and make it uninteresting for me. It started to become less about like the actual wrestling and more about too much about like the storylines, like the candid cam, and it was like stuff like that you would see with the candid cam, that it was like, again, I always point to Al Snow because I thought like that was a gimmick that did not work for me as a fan at that time, where it was like, what is this idiot doing? Like, are we supposed to believe that this is real? Like that he's really talking to this like head, and that he's
the mannequin head.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be also like a really great wrestler. Like, which one is it? Is he a doofus and a shitty wrestler, or is he a great wrestler and a fucking idiot? Like, I don't understand. So it was stuff like that really turned me off.
Dude, just going off of that one, there was only one wrestler that I know of actually pulled off having something completely stupid like that was Saturn. Perry Saturn, and he went insane, and he was talking to I think it was a mop, right? It was a mop or a broom,
Moppy.
That's right.
Moppy.
That's right.
Moppy. it was just so freaking funny, and he did it so well. And the thing was, he was still a great wrestler. He was one of the best tacticians out there. He was just so great. So when you go out there and you wrestle him, it would put on a great show. But behind the scenes, it was just so ridiculously over the top, just talking to a mop and just like,
Yeah.
hey, what's going on? Yeah, do you believe that? It was so freaking funny. I think he was able to do it a lot better than what Al Snow kind of did it.
Yeah.
It's like they crossed that line because like Donald had mentioned in another episode about Mankind, you know, his aura, like boilerplate, like that was kind of believable, right? Like you just were like, this dude's creepy, but yet like I wouldn't want to face him. I wonder, you know, like how the Undertaker's going to do against this guy. And I feel like they tripled down on that and they just kept pushing the envelope to like, okay, now let's just make people stupid. Let's see how far we can get with like how crazy we make these wrestlers mentally. And that's where it was like, come on, man, you guys were walking that tightrope already and I was still hanging with you guys. And now it's just like, okay, this is ridiculous.
Embarrassing moments as a wrestling fan, we're always going to have those people who antagonize us as, you know, it's fake. But one of my favorite lines that I would get from a friend who's tried to make me feel embarrassed as a wrestling fan is when I'd mentioned the Ultimate Warrior, like Ultimate Warrior, the second one or the third one. And that's such a funny line because it's that obviously wrestling rumor that they replace the original Ultimate Warrior with a new one. And it becomes from the Ultimate Warrior coming back to WWE a lot lighter.
Right.
And it's because it was the whole steroid saga and he had to cycle off the steroids.
He also had a little bit more of a tan the second time around. That I think helped.
So he looks somewhat different, and that is such my quick trigger. Like, it's not even the one that like wrestling's fake. It's it's like this first, second, or third Ultimate Warrior, and then it's also the first, second, or third Undertaker. And this goes whole to the,
although there were two Undertakers, if you remember,
and that was a whole gimmick, right? And it's always that whole. It's kind of like that conspiracy theory that you can't prove or disprove. However, this is like very proven that it's not the same Undertaker. It's not the same. It's obviously the same Ultimate Warrior, but then because he looks so different, it's like, well, he's under the face paint, and it's so funny and stupid. But
you see, that was also a big. See, I feel like that's partially wrestling's fault. Again, in WCW, I remember the second Sting was always like would make a recurring appearance, you know, and it was like, wait, what? There's a second Sting, you know. So I think that gets inside the head, and you're like, wait a minute, are there really, you know, wrestlers that are playing the same part? Like we never saw. I used to think Kane maybe was a different wrestler at times, only to find out later that I know it was the same dude. And now
he played a fake Diesel, right? Wasn't that exactly. What he played?
Yeah, he
played
was
fake Diesel.
That's right. Right when Diesel left for WCW.
Thanks again for joining us, and hope you enjoyed this conversation. But wow, remember those crazy storylines WWE came up with during the Attitude Era? Kind of hard to believe they attempted that. I was a kid watching, so I didn't know how dumb it was. But now looking back at it on the WWE network, some of that stuff just didn't age well. But nonetheless, it was entertaining. Well guys, we have one more episode to go. We hope you enjoyed this series. The team put a lot of work into it, and I'm proud of what we did. Stay tuned for the final round of this series. We'll go over kayfabe, then and now, some of our favorite storylines, not the funny, ridiculous ones, but the ones that actually work. And we even get into a great discussion on what it means to be an independent contractor in the pro wrestling industry. Until next time, guys, later.